What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA, featuring my co-host here, Slim from the To the Galaxy pod. I'm your host at Scotty Drown. That's where you can find me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. You can find Slim at RTR30111 on Twitter, space, whatever you want to call it, X. How are you doing today, Slim? Before we get started here, I do want to just give you the opportunity. Make sure I do a better job on this as we do this show weekly here on out. But where can everybody find your podcast? I know I always say the To the Galaxy pod, but like when does it air? What all is it on? Is it on YouTube? Is it on podcast streaming services? Where are you located at? Just for all the viewers out there, man.
Yeah, so for the most part, it's just a YouTube thing. I also set it up so I could do it on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's like a weekly thing, like how we doing here between the days of either Tuesday or Thursday. So between those days, around like 2 p.m. Central, that's when you should see it, the episode be out. So
definitely check out his page. It's right there. The link will be in the description of the video as well. So you can click on that. It'll take you right to the YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that subscribe button, as well as hitting the subscribe button on this channel as well. If it's your first time viewing, like the video and hit that subscribe button. Help the channel grow here as we strive to bring you great NBA content. But what we're going to get into today, obviously, you guys see the title out there. It is going to be Scotty Talks NBA, but we're focusing on the in-season tournament championship. We had two in-season tournament games last night. Between the Pacers and the Bucks first, and then the Pelicans and the Lakers. We now have the championship set between the Lakers and the Pacers. You got the number one offense in the NBA going up against a defense that looks pretty sturdy, led by Anthony Davis and LeBron James. But I want to start with last night, focus there first, and then we'll kind of gravitate to that matchup tomorrow night between the Lakers and the Pacers. But let's start at the Pacers win over the Bucks, 128-119. Once again, Tyrese Halliburton, man, 27 points, 15 assists, 7 rebounds, 0 turnovers. That's the biggest thing. 15 assists, 0 turnovers in that game. Just ridiculous. On the other side, you had Giannis with 37 and 10. In this game, man, I'll be honest with you. I went into this game, I thought the Bucks would play some serious competitive basketball. I thought the Bucks would come away with this win and ultimately go to the in-season tournament championship. But they came up short, man, and this Pacers team has been able to knock off the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks just this week in this in-season tournament, where it is assumed that everybody is competing at close to their highest level that they could at this point in the season. What have you seen so far from the Pacers? What have you liked so far from them, not only in the in-season tournament, but this season as a whole, man?
I would have to say they togetherness, like the way they play alongside each other. You know, they just love to play basketball at the highest level, and they just do it all together. Like nobody's being selfish. Like you mentioned last night, Tyrese had 15 assists and 0 turnovers, so that's quite impressive, man. You know, he's doing a great job of being a leader. He's taking that leap, being vocal on both ends, and you know, Miles Turner and Buddy Hield being great vets alongside Matherin and Obi Toppin. So those guys just complement each other so well. Yep, they just complement each other so well.
They're a deep team, as you mentioned there. You just mentioned a few of their players. They got plenty more as well to stretch out that bench. And I think, you know, this is good for the Pacers because you see the crowd whenever they are in Indianapolis. I know they weren't there this past game, but the first game in Indiana between the Celtics and Pacers, that crowd was insane. They're in Vegas now. They weren't in Milwaukee. They're in Vegas now. But nonetheless, when they were in Indiana, the crowd was insane. And it seems like that fan base is hungry for competitive basketball. And to that point, it doesn't feel like it's the truth. Halliburton has brought basketball back to life in Indiana. And to that point, it has a lot of people saying that he deserves to be in MVP conversations this season so far. And I don't really see how you can argue against it, honestly. He leads the league in assists per game. He's arguably the best point guard in the game. Like people are saying in the Eastern Conference, he's arguably the best point guard in the game right now, in my opinion, with the way he distributes the ball. But What do you think? Like, what is the odds that he can keep like this type of play up and actually like compete for an MVP this season? What do you think about that?
Honestly, like I would say this, like the rest of the season and so on and so on. Like he's just a
Yeah,
special talent. Like guys like Tyrese don't come along too quick. Like it's
yeah,
just
that's fair.
impressive to drop. Like it's a stat. Like so he basically is the only guy for the Pacers. Well, even in general, like no one else in NBA history has more than a game of 25 points, 15 assists, and 0 turnovers. Like this is third
Yeah,
career game, and there's nobody has more than
yeah,
one. So when guys do
it's
stuff
crazy.
like that, it's just crazy to see, and you just don't see guys do that too often. So I say his ceiling is up there for sure. Like he can keep this
Yeah.
up for sure.
Yeah, but I like your point though. It's like just take it for what it is and like the performances as they come right throughout the season. I actually like that point because you don't have to quantify it just yet. This might be his outcoming, right? His breakout season where he puts his name on the map and where he puts the Pacers on the map. So just take that for what it is. But nonetheless, the Pacers move along. You also had Miles Turner in this game, as you mentioned. He's been playing well. 26 points, 10 rebounds, 9 for 18 from the field. Dame Lillard on the other side shot 7 for 20, so not the greatest, but 24.7 rebounds, 7 assists. You also had Chris Middleton with 20.7 rebounds and 4 assists. But nonetheless, the Pacers move on, and they will take on the Lakers, who won the second matchup of the night last night between the Lakers and the Pelicans,
Yeah, man.
133 to 89. They blew them Pelicans out.
So
Hey, I was on the wrong side of this one too, man. I actually had picked the Pelicans to go on to the in-season tournament championship and win it. I think they got a very, very deep team, but last night they just didn't come out with the right intensity from my perspective. You have LeBron also playing out of his mind right now. Give the credit where it's due. AD defensively is insane right now, what he's doing for that Lakers team. But what did you see here last night between these two teams? Obviously, it wasn't close after the second half. After the second half started, but how dominant do the Lakers look right now? Like, don't to me, they look like a legitimate NBA championship contender. And I know it's the in-season tournament; they're probably raising their level of play a little bit here, but that's the point of the in-season tournament is to get a glimpse of what these teams might look like in the playoffs. So. Right now, they look like a top contender in the NBA with their play in the in-season tournament. How do you feel about that?
yeah, for sure. When they're healthy, they one hell of a team. Like they got pieces that complement LeBron and AD so well. Whether it's going small, going big, or however you want to
Yeah,
look at it. But last night, LeBron he set the tone early. Like he was getting after it on both
yeah.
ends. Like he just
Taking
he
charges.
wanted to win. Yeah, like he hit two crazy deep threes, and I knew then I said, yeah, he gonna win. Like and like you
Yeah,
said, you got to give him his props though. Not too many guys at his age has done what he's doing right now. So
yeah,
you have to give him his props. And Austin Reeves coming in off the bench, he's bought into his new role. He's been
yep,
effective, and like you mentioned, AD defense has been elite as a late
yeah,
anchor in the defense and switching on out on the perimeter and doing one hell of a job with it. But yeah, the Pelicans they deserve to lose. I mean, Zion, man, I'm very
yeah.
disappointed. I thought he would have been better. Like he
I
wasn't
agree,
getting
man.
back in defense. Like it was just like Torian Prince was having all he could eat out there. Was Zion was guarding him.
Yeah,
So
I'll be
yeah,
honest, man. I'm a Zion fan. I'm obviously a Duke fan, so that's where the Zion fandom comes from. But that's just not acceptable, man. Honestly, on that
man,
stage,
right.
right? When this is supposed to be the highest competition levels that we see in the regular season, and he's just out there. I mean, he looks like I hate to say this, like I'm not trying to be judgmental, but he looks like out of shape. He obviously is playing like he's out of shape. He's not getting back on defense, like you said, and it's not just this game against the Lakers, too. Like the night before that, or the game before that, when they took on who did they play the other night?
The
I'm losing
Bulls.
it.
Was it the Bulls? I think.
Pelicans? No, it had to be somebody in the Western Conference, I thought. Why is it
Let's
slipping
look
my
and
mind
see.
right now? It was the Lakers and the Suns and the Pelicans and the Kings, I think it was. I think it was the Kings.
Yeah, the Kings. Yeah, the Kings. Yeah.
Sacramento Kings. And I think that night he had like 10 or 13 points. he played like the least amount of minutes out of all the starters on the Pelicans. And then you also had Trey Murphy that got more minutes than him in that game. And I think you're just seeing why, right? When you watch the game last night, you see why that is happening. And it's inexcusable at this point, man. I don't know. Like, if I'm the Pelicans, that team is so deep, bro. Like, what does his trade market look like? Like, what could you get in return for him that could make the Pelicans a little bit better? Just because you do have all of those pieces, it's like if you just insert someone else in there, like, what does that look like? Rather than just like waiting on this dude to get in shape. I don't know, though. I get it. He has a ton of talent, right? Like, even if he's out of shape right now, he has a ton of talent. But how long do you wait for a guy like that to come around, right? Like, and become what he's supposed to be?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
I really don't know, man. I really don't. But with that all in mind here, we're talking about the in-season tournament. As we look ahead, obviously the Lakers dominated that game. Not too much to talk about there. But as we look ahead, you have the Pacers visiting the Lakers. Technically, it's in Vegas. It's not an away game for the Pacers, but technically they are at Lakers tomorrow. Lakers are 4.5-point favorites. When you look at this matchup, to me, it looks like defensive-minded team versus an offensive-minded team. But which one of these teams, which one of these identities do you see kind of shining through tomorrow on that big stage? Do you think it's going to be that defensive presence led by AD, or do you think it's going to be more of that offensive, high-pace scoring matchups like the Pacers like to run out there?
It's tough. It's tough for sure, but I'm going to have to go with the Lakers. I feel like their defense can slow this offensive Pacer team down more so than anybody else could. I feel like they match up pretty well with them from point guard all the way down to the center. And they have a lot of depth, different guys they can throw at Tyrese and different things like this. So I'm going to go with the Lakers in their defense.
Actually, I do like that. I like that pick as well, man. I'm actually kind of feeling the Lakers, especially after watching them last night. Like, they want to win it. And I think ultimately when you have a team like that compared to the Pacers, I think the Lakers are just better than the Pacers right now. They're just more experienced. They've been there, and they do have guys that are very versatile defenders. You have AD that's going to match up directly with Miles Turner, so you can kind of cancel Miles Turner out, I feel like. And then from there, it's just going to come down. Now, if the Pacers come out and they're shooting the laces off the ball, then it is what it is, right? They're going to score the ball. Like, if they're hitting shots, they're hitting shots. But I do agree with you. I think it's one of those situations where if this was the playoffs, which I kind of consider it a playoff-esque level, I think you'll see these teams reach higher levels in the playoffs. I'm not saying they're at true form right now, but for where they're at in the season, it's a playoff level type of intensity. And I think defense always shines through in those situations. Defense wins championships. That's the saying, right? MVP, man. Who do you think ends up winning the in-season tournament MVP? It's got to be LeBron if Lakers winning, right?
Yeah. If the Lakers win, LeBron, but if the Pacers win, clearly Tyrese. So.
Yeah. So it's going to be one or the other there. Which, I mean, this kind of gravitates into our next conversation, which is going to be a new segment each week. We're doing this weekly now. We've decided that. So we wanted to come up with a segment that we can just kind of pile on each and every week, taking a look at different players around the league. So we're going to go through. Slim has an offensive, a defensive player of the week, a rookie of the week. I also have my own offensive player, defensive player, and rookie of the week here. We're just going to put the spotlight on them for this week and kind of put the viewers out there on notice and let them know what's going on with these guys. But this week, it was a little bit easier, I would say, than most of the weeks we'll be going forward with this in-season tournament. I'll let you go first because I know you have a familiar name, as we've talked about throughout this show. Who is your offensive player of the week, Slim?
So my offensive player of the week is no other than Tyrese Halliburton. So in the week span, he has averaged 32.3 points, 12.7 assists, and 6.3 rebounds against elite teams, might I add. Yeah. He dropped 44 points and 10 assists against the Miami Heat. He dropped 26, 10 rebounds, and 13 assists against the Celtics. And against the Bucks last night, he dropped 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 15 assists, 0 turnovers. And a huge 3, might I add, by the way. So that's my offensive player of the week, man. He just can't get his kid enough praise, bro. Like,
Yeah.
He's just elite on more levels than we can ever probably think of. Like the turnovers,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the fact for him to get 0 turnovers, you just got to keep bringing that up because that's just impressive.
Yeah.
Like some of the all
Well,
time great passers don't even do this, man,
I
or
feel
haven't
like
even done this.
that like speaks to like his poise, right? Like just to not
Yeah,
take a break throughout the game, like just not have one lackadaisical pass, not one lackadaisical like dribble. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't dribble off his foot and go out of bounds. Like just not one mistake throughout the game offensively. It is impressive, man. And I agree. He just keeps on checking off each box as the season goes on so far. And it started last season when he got to Indiana, right? Like we started to see it a little bit, but this season you add a few pieces around him and things are really starting to look up for this Pacers team. And like we said, man, this dude is arguably the best point guard in the league right now, the way he's playing. He's an MVP candidate to start this early season. Um, yeah, I mean, it's really crazy because I think we knew he had like the passing ability, even in Sacramento, where when he started there, like you could see his feel for the game that he was going to be that facilitator type guy. But I think it's like the late game scoring for me, man. Like that's the part where I'm like, okay, like this dude is for real. Like you said, he hit a big three in that game against the Milwaukee Bucks last night, and he just I don't know. It's like that wasn't his calling card when I first heard about Tyrese Halliburton. So now that I'm really watching him develop, his shooting, his scoring is really just as impressive as his playmaking, quite honestly. So yeah, I love the pick, man. I'm gonna
yeah.
actually
So
stay in the end season. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, no, okay, we'll go. I was going to ask you. So who was your offensive player of the week?
Yeah, no, that's perfect timing. So I'm actually gonna stay in the in-season tournament as well, and I'm gonna go with the opposite, the opposition tomorrow for Tyrese Halliburton. I'm gonna go with LeBron James. 30
Okay.
and a half points per game in 2 games this week in the in-season tournament. Mind you, going against the Suns, going against the Pelicans, 2 quality matchups. So 30 and a half points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game, 9.5 assists per game, 2.5 steals per game. Not that that matters. Just adding that in there.
Yeah.
1 turnover
Yeah.
per game. He also shot 56.8% from the field, 75% from the 3-point line. And this is all in 31.4 minutes per game, man. So he's not playing a ton of minutes, right? He's still filling the box score or the box sheet. And this man is old as hell. And with all due respect, he is old as
Yeah.
hell in the NBA scale to be doing this type of stuff, man, to be taking over games like he did last night. So I gave the nod to LeBron. I can't hate on your nod. I think this week, those guys at the forefront in this in-season tournament, it kind of made it an easy decision for us. But what are your thoughts there with LeBron and his offensive performance?
Yeah, like you mentioned, we just alluded to this. To see what he's doing at his age, you just got to give him his flowers. Like nobody's doing this, or probably will never do this again at his age. Like averaging
It's
30
crazy.
points on high efficient shooting, like it's just amazing to see. Like last night, like watching the game, he was a man on a mission. he
Yeah,
wasn't. He was. Yeah,
you said that
he wasn't
earlier.
getting eliminated, man. Like he said, he
You
was going to
said that
win. He was
earlier.
going to win.
That intensity that he was playing with, man, it just it shows me that he really wants to win this tournament. And I do wonder, man, like as the season goes on, like how long can he keep this level of play up, like with those legs, with as old as his body is. But I think the one thing that I've learned is like to not doubt this man, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna doubt LeBron James. But who is your defensive player of the week?
I got to get it to Rudy Gobert. This Timberwolves defense has been beyond elite. They're number one for a
Yeah,
reason, and not saying he's the only reason because of that, because they have very great defenders on the team, but he's anchoring that defense. So
absolutely.
for Rudy, over the span of a week, he has averaged 19 points, 15 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks in his last 3 games. So, like I mentioned, they're the number one defense for a reason, and Rudy has been very great this season compared to last season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
go
that
Rudy.
fit next to Cat is looking pretty well. And I think that, to your point, man, he's starting to get like guys like Cat to buy into defense as well and start to know how to play a little bit better defense within the team. And it speaks to where they're at defensively. They're the number one defensive team in the NBA, like you said there. So Rudy Gobert is a big part of that, and he's well on his way, I would say, to what is it now? His third or fourth defensive player of the year.
If he win this year, it would be
award.
his fourth.
His fourth. That's just insane. I mean, I remember guys like Ben Wallace. Like I don't remember like how many defensive player of the years he won, but there's been guys throughout my lifetime like that, but they all seem to get a lot more respect than what Rudy Gobert gets, honestly. I think it's his personality that people don't like, but
yeah, for sure.
He's definitely a defensive menace. I went with another player in the West Coast, but another familiar name that we've mentioned already this show. I went with Anthony Davis in this instance, just for that performance last night. But if you look over the Lakers 2 games this week in the in-season tournament, they're only giving up 96 points per game. He's averaging 2 blocks and a steal per game. Yeah, I'm going with Anthony Davis. It can't all be shown through metrics, through production, because it's defense, right? But when you watch that game last night, you see how on lock Anthony Davis has the paint. Anything that comes through, he's challenging. And his length, whenever he's engaged the way he was last night, where he's willing to go out and get you 15 rebounds, just block shots, and really not have to focus on the offensive end. Yeah, he gets points, right? I think he had like 16 points last night. But his focus was on the boards and was on defense. And I think when he has that mindset in, the Lakers turn into that juggernaut defensively when he's engaged like that. So I went with Anthony Davis in this case, man, for similar reasons as to why you picked Rudy Gobert, quite honestly. I think Rudy's just done it on a longer scale. You know what I mean? Minnesota's been playing at that level all season. Lakers kind of just getting on it for the in-season tournament, but nonetheless impressive. Who did you have as your rookie of the week? I'm interested here because there's a lot of different directions you could have gone this week.
Yeah, you're right. This was a tough one for sure, but I had to go. I'm a little biased here towards defense, but I went with Derek Lively the second. So in the week span, he's averaged 11.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 3.7 blocks. He had a career high like a few days ago against the Thunder. He had 7 block shots. So, yeah, he's been huge for the Mavericks defense. He's been anchoring in defense, and he's just been impressive to be a rookie doing this at this level. So I got to give him his props, and he's my rookie of the week for sure.
Yeah, I actually love that pick. It's a guy that slipped my mind when I was like going through this process of picking a rookie of the week. But Derek Lively, man, yeah, I saw he just had a big game the other night, and he's just the perfect he's the perfect fit next to Luka, a guy that can attract so much attention, is a little bit of a liability defensively, so Lively helps him out on that end. Luka helps Lively out on the offensive end. It's a good balance that comes with that. And it's funny, man, I don't know if you keep up with college basketball a whole lot, but Duke is actually struggling, and a lot of Duke fans are starting to think, man, we've really underappreciated Derek Lively on that squad last year, and he's showing his worth in the NBA, so it kind of speaks to that as well. I actually went with a player from a miserable team, I will say, and excuse me if I butcher his name, but I went with Bilal Coulibaly from the Washington Wizards.
The Washington Wizards, yeah.
6'8", 195-pound shooting guard out of France. Played with Victor Wembanyama on the France international team. So I heard about him, obviously, during the draft and going into it. I didn't know a ton about him. I don't watch a ton of France or French basketball. But nonetheless, this kid, getting to see him go against the Sixers. I obviously listen to Patrick Beverley pod, being a Sixers fan. Listen to his podcast a lot. So the last time the Sixers, before this week, played the Wizards, Pat Bev was talking about Coulibaly as a guy to keep your eye on and a guy that he actually loves as a young player in the league. So with that in mind, I went into this next game this past Wednesday, just kind of keeping an eye on him and what he contributes. And he brings a lot of length. He brings a lot of energy. He brings a good basketball IQ. defensive intangibles. And I really like what he brings to the court. But in that game, 14 points, 3 assists, 3 steals. He was 6 for 10 from the field in that game. So just does a lot of everything, right? And the perfect way to cap off that performance. Now, the Wizards didn't win that game, obviously. I wouldn't want them to, but he did dunk on B-ball Paul Reed in that game. I don't know if you caught that game, but he definitely yammed that shit on Paul Reed's head. So it was a nice little exclamation point from the rookie in that game, and definitely just kind of a notice, right? That's what this segment's for. It's to put their names out there. Keep an eye on these players going forward. Now, as we do this segment, in future episodes, obviously we won't have the in-season tournament, the in-season championship, that type of stuff. So we'll be a little bit more, in depth with our offensive and defensive players of the week, but it was only right this week with the in-season tournament going on. I think that, it kind of revolves around those players, but no, I loved all your picks, man. And definitely players I'm going to keep my eyes on going forward. But that being said, we mentioned a couple of the teams in that segment. I want to get into power rankings, man, and talk about your top 10 versus my top 10 power rankings so far this season. We are into week 7 of the NBA season, believe it or not. Time just flies by, my man. First of all, let me ask you this before we get into the week 7 top 10 power rankings, but how are you enjoying this season so far, just in respect to other seasons, previous seasons? I know you're a Warriors fan, so they're below 500 right now, so keep that in mind, balance it out a little bit. But not only the Warriors, but the NBA as a whole, the in-season tournament. How have you been enjoying this season so far, man?
I've been enjoying it, man. It's been great. I've been locked in, watching more games, not just my Warriors, like you mentioned. Yeah. They would have you stressed out, but I've been tuning into other games as well. Been watching the Lakers, Suns, the Grizzlies, Sixers, Celtics, Bucks. So it's a lot of good storylines. Obviously seeing how different players fit in. With James Harden going to the Clippers, Dame Dollar with the Bucks, and seeing how KD, Book, and we have yet to see Bradley Beal yet. But we have yet to see the big three play yet, actually.
Yeah.
And it's like you mentioned, it's 7 weeks in, and those three haven't even played a game together. So interesting to see how those three guys look together as well. But overall, I'm enjoying this season, man. It's been a fun one for sure.
Did you I remember you were going to a Memphis game. Did you end up going to that game already, or did that already pass? How was that game?
Bro, let's just say, like, these players, I gotta give them their props. Like Devin Booker, seeing this stuff in person, it's beyond elite. Like his shot making is just like amazing. Like to see it with your own 2 eyes. They do a great job making it, like the way you've read on TV versus live is so different, bro. I swear.
Yeah.
But watching it live, like the shots he was hitting were just beyond elite, man.
So it was the Suns versus the Grizzlies.
Yeah, the Suns versus the Grizzlies. It was an in-season tournament game.
Oh damn, yeah. So that would be a good matchup. Did KD play? Who all played?
Nah, it was his first game he missed, man. Yeah.
Oh, of course. That's weird that he would miss the in-season tournament game too, right?
Of course.
Was Desmond Bane play at least?
Yeah, Desmond Bane did play, yeah.
Which, speaking of offensive players, I believe he just dropped 49 the other night, man. If I'm not mistaken. Desmond Bane taking over that team without John Morant down there. Marcus Smart injured for them right now too. But yeah, I was wondering how that game went. I couldn't remember if it passed or not. I know you was kind of worried about who would get to play, but it's good you got to see at least that Desmond Bane versus Devin Booker matchup. That's a good matchup.
Derrick Rose was heating up as well. Like seeing him up in person, like Derrick Rose, he was hitting a lot of big jumpers into the rim.
That is crazy. You get to see Derrick Rose. Hey man, who knows how long you'll be able to watch him play going forward. So that's a good game to have been to, nonetheless, man. But let's get into these top 10 power rankings. Then we'll from there we'll go to just a few narratives that me and Slim are looking at tonight amongst all the matchups tonight. But starting with the top 10 power rankings, we can just go back and forth from 10 up. So I'll throw it to you. I actually have at number 10, I have the New York Knicks. They're 7-3 in their last 10. So they're playing some good basketball right now. They did just get bounced from the in-season tournament, of course, by the Bucks. But I still like what the Knicks are doing. Julius Randle playing a lot better basketball. Who do you have at number 10, my man?
I know this might be kind of very low, but I gotta go with the Bucks, man. Like they
Fair
need an
enough.
identity and they need it quick. Like, yeah, they ranked third in offensive rating, but defensively they ranked 22nd, and that's
Yeah.
terrible for the Milwaukee Bucks. They have been the elite defensive team for the past 5+ years. Now, in saying that, obviously they lost Drew Holiday, who was a huge piece to what they
Yeah.
do on the defensive end, but they still have Giannis, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, and very pretty good defenders. So for them to be 22nd is just unacceptable, and especially for them for their championship aspirations, they definitely have to be better. And one thing I want to challenge Chris Middleton to do is, can he show that version of him like he was 2 years ago in the NBA Finals? If
That's a
he could
great
be
point.
that, then I think that they could definitely contend for a championship. If you ask me, he has to be that third best player on this team for them to win a championship, not Brook
Agreed.
Lopez, because Brook Lopez has been phenomenal this season on both
Yeah.
ends. But Middleton has to be that third guy, that guy you can go out there and get you a bucket and be elite on the defensive end.
I think that's a great point, man. I think Chris Middleton, it really is the key to everything for that team. I mean, at some point Dame is going to get the efficiency a little bit better, right? He'll get a little bit more comfortable with that team, find his role a little bit more in depth with the Bucks. He'll come around. Giannis is going to perform at an MVP level clip, but it's really Chris Middleton. Can he be not an all-star, but maybe just right outside of that all-star conversation, right? Like that's what they need in order to compete at the highest level. And I think, it's funny that they did end up, shipping Drew Holiday out. Obviously they went after Dame, as if Drew Holiday was the problem. You know what I mean? Like Drew Holiday wasn't
Right.
really the problem. It was really Chris
Nah.
Middleton last year and him in and out of the lineup unhealthy. So it is interesting, just a few years removed from them winning the chip. But number 9 for me. So I had the that's the Ticks. I had the Knicks at number 10. And I have the Pacers at number 9. I am fairly high on the Pacers, but I'm trying to keep it non-biased. I love Tyrese Halliburton as a player. I love what he's doing. It's the number 1 offense in the NBA. As we mentioned earlier, you have Tyrese Halliburton playing at an MVP level, and they just beat Milwaukee and Boston this week. Two for everybody's money, right? Coming into the season, those were the 2 Eastern Conference teams at the top. And they knocked them both off in the same week in the in-season tournament. So got to give them some credit for that. The record still isn't great on the overall season, but I do think they'll end up as a playoff team. But for my money right now, they come in at number 9 for me here, the Pacers. Who do you got?
That's fair. For me, I got the Phoenix Suns coming in at number 9. Kevin Durant, at the age of 35, has been beyond elite. He's averaging 31 points a game. His shots has just been elite. The numbers show it. He's shooting great all across the field. Devin Booker has shown he could be an elite point guard, passing the ball. Like clearly, we know he can score with the best of them, but he's been doing a phenomenal job passing the ball, being a point guard on his team, and the role players have stepped in and do what they need to do for them to win games. But one question had to be Bradley Beal. Like like you mentioned, we 7 weeks in and we have yet to see these 3 play a game together. So there's definitely some concern there because we're about to go into a new year and we don't know like what issues is he dealing with at the moment. But yeah, I got them coming in at number 9. Aside that, it's a pretty good team, well constructed. All those guys can play off Bill, KD, and Book, the role players. So yeah, and they got a nice head coach. So yeah, got those guys coming in at number 9.
I like what the Suns are doing right now. They just got to put together some consistency. And like you said, I think that is a concern, like long term. You don't want to get to past the All-Star break and you still haven't gotten Bradley Beal acclimated with KD and D-Book in this team. So I do agree with you. That is probably the biggest concern for them right now is getting Beal back. Number 8 for me is going to be the team that your squad is taking on tonight. I went with the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have the number 2 net rating of all teams across the NBA this season. So good offense, good defense holistically. And I think it's, it's time to take them serious, right? Like I personally thought maybe we were a year away from them, getting into the playoffs and, being a very bad matchup for a team and potentially upsetting. But I think they are kind of moving themselves a lot quicker up that ladder. And I don't think, if you look across the board in the Western Conference, I don't think any team really should want to play the Oklahoma City Thunder come playoffs time. They have such a deep team, such a young team. Obviously, Chet, he's just getting better as the season goes on. He's still a very young player. And SGA, man, he's hit into this elite superstar status as a player. They have a little turmoil going on with that Josh Giddey stuff. I'm not going to get too into that, that weird situation. But nonetheless, the Thunder are looking pretty good to start this season, I would say. They come in at an 8 for me.
Yeah. So coming in at number 8, I got to go with your Sixers. They've been 0-2 without Joel. He just came back and dropped a 50-piece against the Wizards a few days ago.
Yes, sir.
Kelly Oubre is back in the lineup. Like I mentioned, Joel is a difference maker on both ends. He's been such a great passer, but I think they can get back on track with things, with the way they like to operate in different things. I love what I've been seeing from both D-Mill and Pat Bev, being more aggressive on the offensive end. Clearly, you know what they're going to bring for you on the defensive end, but for the Sixers, you a Sixers fan, so I got to ask you, like, when it comes down to Tobias Harris, like, what is it going to take to just unlock that consistency from him? Like, can't he be that guy that can provide 19 to, 22 points a game? Pretty nice shooting across the charts. Like, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, though? Like, can he do that? Or do y'all think that y'all should reevaluate the roster and move on for him at the trade deadline, opposed to waiting till the season is over?
Yeah, it's a great question, especially given his performances of late. I think he had 6 points the other night or 8 points, something like that. Bad. Didn't take a lot of shots in that game, but obviously just didn't look like a great fit overall. To answer your question, honestly, no, I don't think he can. I think the writing's on the wall for Tobias, and I've been a pretty big Tobias fan while he's been in Philly. I've tried to support him. I've tried to, kind of defend him at times, and as the seasons have gone on, I can't do it. I mean, I've met him, you know what I mean? So I met him while out for lunch in Philadelphia. It was in this place called Manayunk in Philly. And he's a nice dude. You know what I mean? Like, he sent me a signed jersey and shit. Like, he's done a lot. He does a lot in the city. He's a great dude. Has a lot of talent, I would even say. I would go that far. He just doesn't put it together consistently. It's like his confidence weighs in and weighs out way too often. And to that point, man, I'm honestly convinced you could trade him for a guard. I think the Sixers need another guard. I think they need another ball handler. It doesn't even have to be a guard, but another ball handler, another playmaker on the roster. And I think you could ship Tobias out and maybe bring somebody back like that, and it would benefit the team more, because you have Rocco, you have Nicholas Batum, you even have Marcus Morris if you really need to go that far. So, Tobias Harris, it's like his fit. Kelly Oubre is another guy I would throw into that lump of forwards for the Sixers. The necessity for Tobias really isn't there, and his style of play isn't really there. I feel like Kelly Oubre and Nicholas Batum are better fits for the roles that the Sixers are looking for. So, yeah, to answer your question, nah, man. It hurts me to say that. It does.
Yeah. I feel on that.
Number 7 for me is going to be the Orlando Magic. Now, they've dropped 2 in a row, obviously, since last week. Last week, they were really hot. But they still have the number 5 defensive rating in the NBA. They're a very deep team, and I think you see Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. Obviously, Paolo just had a 40-point game the other night. He's coming into his own. But both of those players are heading into that elite status that we're going to have to start talking about them with a higher level, a higher group of players in the NBA. But the Magic, it feels like them along with OKC, these teams are starting to take that step as far as exiting the youthful rebuild and into that youth developing into something and really starting to prove something in the league. So I went with the Magic there at number 7.
Well, I got the Magic at number 7 as well. This
Interesting.
team has been great. They ranked third defensively. Paulo Banchero, he has become an improved playmaker. He's more an efficient shooter. He's hitting 44.4% from three-point range, and he has been an improved playmaker. I love what I've been seeing from him. Like you mentioned, Franz Wagner, he's been great. He's been elite. Jonathan Isaac, he's finally healthy, and the guard play has been very well this season from Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony.
Yeah.
I like the rookie that got Anthony Black, and when Markelle Fultz get in the lineup, he's been great as well. Cole Anthony can seriously be a guy who can enter the 6-man of the year conversation for sure.
Yeah, no, I actually I love that point as well. Just the Anthony Black point, I think he's been great as a rookie, and then Cole Anthony coming off the bench, and you have seen Jalen Suggs, just to throw another name out there, who's really coming into his own as kind of like a glue guy, right? Coming out of college, you really didn't look at him like that out of Gonzaga, but he's turned into kind of a different player in the league, and it's working out for him. So, yeah, exactly. Number 6 for me is going to be those Milwaukee Bucks that you mentioned a little bit earlier at number 10. I do have the Bucks a little bit higher. Maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt with looking at their ceiling, because they haven't played very well this season. But you also have to ask yourself, like, are we being too hard on the Bucks, or as far as our expectations versus the way they're playing? But I think you're fair either way with the teams that you have above them right now. I think you can argue that the Sixers, the Magic, those type of teams, they are playing better than the Milwaukee Bucks right now, holistically. So I have it written down here exactly what you said. They're still finding themselves. They still need to find an identity. I just happen to have them about 4 slots higher. They are 7-3 in their last 10, even coming off that disappointing loss last night against the Pacers. I think that's part of it too. That's why I have them even a little bit lower. I was considering them all the way up as high as like 4. But when you think about it, this was like their opportunity to kind of come out and say, hey, like, we are for real this season. Like, Pacers aren't a team that's going to touch what we're trying to do this season. And they really just didn't come out and separate themselves. Same thing could be said for the Celtics, but I think the Celtics over the whole entire season have proved themselves a little bit more. So I went with the Bucks at number 6 here, man. Who do you got?
The team I'm about to mention, it would have been nice to see the Bucks versus the Lakers in the in-season finals.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice.
I agree.
But coming in at number 6, I got the Lakers. I got to give them their defense a lot of credit. They're finally healthy. They got Jerry Vanderbilt back, Rui Hachimura. Cam Reddish and Torian Prince have been doing a phenomenal job on the defensive end. They got a lot of length against those guys and quality wing defenders. Like I mentioned, Austin Reeves, he's bought into his role coming in off the bench. ADs has been phenomenal on the defensive end. LeBron being LeBron, and they got a lot of good point guards over there. D'Lo, Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent, when he's healthy, I'm pretty sure he can make an impact. So I got the Lakers coming in at number 6.
Actually, I like that pick because I do have the Lakers at number 5 myself. So for all the same reasons that you mentioned, it's really starting to show in this in-season tournament how dangerous they really are. I think they are a team that is just going to simply fluctuate throughout the season just due to their age, right, of their 2 best players. It's going to rely on them. They're going to need rest at times throughout this season, but I think right now they're fully comfortable putting their foot on the gas and really trying to win this in-season tournament. I like what they're doing right now, specifically in this in-season tournament, and I also like the way their team measures out as far as like playoff basketball. They're a very good style of play for playoff basketball. I think the Lakers have right now as they continue to find themselves. So I went with the Lakers at number 5. Who do you got there?
So coming in number 5, we have discussed this team pretty much the whole episode, and that's the Indiana Pacers. Like, no need to get into more detail. They got the highest offensive rating for a season. For a reason. Tyrese Halliburton, no need to discuss. What he's been providing for this team. Just been an elite point guard. Like I mentioned, they got pieces that complement him so well. And Rick Carlisle has done a phenomenal job being the head coach
Good
for this
point.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a
That's a
lot
good
of guys
call.
don't really give him a lot of credit, but he's been doing a great job, man.
Yeah, he turned that franchise around, at least for now, I would say. That's a good call out. Rick Carlisle, a guy that's been in the league for a while. I think he was at the Mavericks before the Pacers, maybe like
Yeah,
2-3
yeah.
years
He was
ago
with the Mavericks. Him and Luka
before
didn't
Jason
necessarily
Kidd.
see eye to eye, so he
Yeah,
moved over to
makes sense.
the Pacers. Yeah.
And then he gets over to the Pacers and gets a guy like Halliburton, kind of a different style of player than Luka, but they can both fill his stat sheet. It's
Right.
interesting, but yeah, that I think you covered it well there.
There's so many backstories. There's so many stories about Tyrese Halliburton. Like he could have, from my understanding, Mark Cuban. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but he was almost a Dallas Maverick, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
didn't know
Like
that.
Tyrese Halliburton
I
was
didn't know
almost
that.
a Maverick. Like, yeah.
Imagine him
He
beside
was on a
Luka.
Pat Bell pod actually. Yeah.
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 Interesting.
Mark
Yeah.
Cuban was on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Halliburton, he is a character, man. He opts on like almost everybody's pod. I feel like he likes to talk and get into the media. But nonetheless, so it's my go now. So my number 4 is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers. This might be a little high, might be a little biased. I don't know. They did drop 2 last week. They just won 1 to get back in the win column against the Wizards. Mind you, it is the Wizards, but they were without Embiid last week, which I think is a big part of those 2 games that they dropped in a row. Maxey also missed 1 of those games. Pat Bev had to step up against the Celtics and give us a 20-plus point game. That was
26.
crazy. But that was the part where it really started to show Tobias Harris and his detractor and him as a detractor for this team. I think it really started to show in that game against the Celtics, where everybody else outside, obviously Maxey and Embiid didn't play in that game. Everybody else outside of Tobias Harris, stepped up in that game, and they end up losing it very minimally. And if Tobias just played average in that game, they probably win that game against the Celtics. But nonetheless, the Sixers come in with the number 3 net rating as a team in the entire NBA. And the big thing for me is that they got Kelly Oubre back this week, which finally allows this team to be fully healthy. We can figure out these rotations because they got a lot of different guys they can throw out there, a lot of different versatile lineups they can throw at you. So I really want to use this month of December for the Sixers to iron out rotations, iron out who's going to play in these certain situations. Like the other night, for example, I saw Marcus Morris come off the bench before Robert Covington. That just didn't feel right to me. I feel like Robert Covington fits a role better on this team than a Marcus Morris, similar to that Tobias Harris type of idea there. But nonetheless, I went with the Sixers at number 4 here, man.
Yeah. So coming in at number 4, I got the OKC Thunder. They're the only team right now who's top 5 in defense and offensive rating. So that alone should tell you a lot. Like this team on both ends has been getting after it. SGA is the MVP candidate. He's been elite on both ends, might I add. I think he's like second in the league in steals per game. Chet is a Rookie of the Year candidate. He's been so impressive. He's exactly what this team needed on both ends, and
it's crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if he finished the season with top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year race. So, yeah, this team has been great. They're well coached, and they're building a nice culture over there.
I agree, man. I agree. Obviously, I had them a little bit earlier at number 8. But nonetheless, I do agree with you. I think this is the Oklahoma City Thunder's coming out party this season. At number 3, we can go pretty quick from here, I feel like, because these 3 teams, I feel like we're going to agree here on these 3 teams, depending on the order maybe. But coming in at number 3, I have the Denver Nuggets. So the Nuggets right now, they are the number 6 net rating in the NBA. The big thing for me in the Nuggets, obviously, they're coming off a loss against the Clippers on the road. Jokic shot the ball horribly that night. It was very rare to see. But Jamal Murray's back, and he looked really good against the Clippers the other night, which having him back obviously is going to propel them and get them to playing a little bit closer to their standard of basketball that we're used to. So I went with the Nuggets here at number 3, man.
So with me for number 3, I got the Boston Celtics, might I add. So They're ranked 2 in defense for a reason. They got a lot of switchable guys who can go out 1 through 5.
Yeah.
They all complement each other so well. I love what I've been seeing from Derek White this season. He's been consistent on both ends. Al
Really
Horford
good
embraced
player.
his role coming in off the bench. Sam Hauser, he's been a good 3-point shooter for them. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with
How
them
did they
Boston
find
Celtics.
the Sam Hauser, man? How did the Celtics find a guy that shoots the ball like that? Like, it's so annoying. Like that we're gonna. I just already know.
Don't tell me, man. Don't tell me, man.
Huh?
Don't
What?
tell me that he came from Philly.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
I was about to say.
I'm just saying. I know if the Sixers play the Celtics in the playoffs, he's gonna hit a big shot against the Sixers. I already know it. I know it. That man, just a pure shooter. Who did he play for in college? Was it Michigan State? I feel like it was Michigan State he played for, and he was a shooter lights out in college as well. But an undrafted free agent, Sam Hauser, man. Nonetheless, I have the Celtics at number 2. So nonetheless, we both got them as a top 3 team. You mentioned they're number 2 defense in the NBA. They are staying afloat with no Kristaps Porzingis. I think that's interesting as well. He hasn't played the last few games. So what do they look like when he comes back? If Al Horford shifts to the bench or if that's Derek White that shifts to the bench, it'll be interesting. But that is the one concern. Kristaps Porzingis, but then also their bench depth, right? When you have Luke Cornett in your rotation, I just don't know how good your rotation is, man. I don't think that's a guy as much effort that he puts out there on the court night to night. I just don't think that's a guy you need in your rotation. That's just an example. They have other guys that level that are in their rotation as well. Peyton Pritchard, I don't know if that's a guy that you want to be relying on off your bench as your one guard off the bench, right? Last year, you had Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench. This year, it's Peyton Pritchard. So just a little bit different of a view there for the Celtics, but nonetheless, staying afloat. That's why I got them there number 2.
Yeah. For me, I got the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray, he's back in the lineup. Jokic, he averaging nearly a triple-double. They are a top 10 offensive team, generating around 116 points a game. Reggie Jackson has been phenomenal for those guys this year. DeAndre Jordan, he's been solid stepping into his role. I couldn't believe that. Like, honestly, I would have never thought DeAndre Jordan would drop a 20-point double-double in 2023. I couldn't believe when I actually seen it. Mind you, this was against the Clippers as well, so just
I was thinking that the other night when I was watching them play the Clippers. Now, this was the second matchup with the Clippers that they lost, but I know the one you're talking about, the one before that when Jokic was out, the Clippers won, and DeAndre Jordan had a 20-point double-double. Like that is just insane. You know, when I think back to him on the Sixers, maybe last year or the year before that, and what he looked like with the Sixers.
He was on the Sixers,
That was disgusting. I thought, and that's what had me believing, like, this dude is washed. And then I watched him play on the Nuggets the other night, even in a backup role, and he's able to produce. He's able to provide some good minutes with Jokic off the floor. It's very odd. But nonetheless, both have the Nuggets and Celtics in our top 3. We have them in a little bit different order, which means I'm guessing that we have the same top team here. Because I went with the Minnesota Timberwolves. You mentioned it earlier, the number 1 rated defensive team in the NBA. You have Rudy Gobert back there leading the way for Defensive Player of the Year. They just got Ant Edwards back. But the big thing for me, man, is Karl Anthony Towns finding himself next to Rudy Gobert and Ant Edwards. Obviously, Ant Edwards ascending into that superstar status. But Cat is that guy. They're going to need him to be that second offensive option if they want to go anywhere in the playoffs. So that's my number 1 team. I'm expecting you have the same there.
Yeah. So coming in number 1, I got the Golden State Warriors. No, I'm just kidding. Man. I got the Minnesota Timberwolves, man. Like as I mentioned earlier,
that is funny. Respect.
They won they won 2 games in a row without Anthony Edwards. He's back in the lineup. So overall, they're on a 5-game winning streak. Rudy Gobert, he's been elite on the defensive end. Yeah. They finally figured out this lineup thing. They got a year under their belt together. Coming off the bench, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's been great defensively. Jaden McDaniels, Mike Conley, Naz Reid, all those
Yeah.
guys playing their role and so on. But this team has been great, man. They figuring it out. So it's a team to be
Yeah.
reckoned with for sure.
That's crazy, man. Who would have thought? T-Wolves right now, week 7
Yeah.
into the NBA, number 1 ranked team on both of our power rankings. But it speaks to, like you said, it speaks to how good, how dominant they've been to start the season so far. So respect to the T-Wolves. I know my other co-host, Zach Noble, I know he would be proud. We'll have to get you guys on the pod together sometime and,
Yeah, for
shoot
sure.
the shit and talk some ball. But nonetheless, let's finish the show out here strong. We got through the power rankings. We got through the in-season tournament. Friday night, we're not going to do picks. There's a huge slate tonight, so we would be going through like 20 games. It's not that many. It's probably like 11 games. But nonetheless, I know I picked out a game. I just want to focus on a storyline going into tonight. I know you have a game picked out. So I'll throw it to you first. If you just want to talk about what you'll be watching, what you'll be paying attention to tonight as far as matchups.
So a few weeks ago, you asked me about the Warriors. Was I going?
Yeah.
Have I panicked yet? And I told you no. But tonight, I feel like this will determine if I panic or not. Because as the last game against the Blazers, bro, we won by 4 points. And mind you, this is a Blazers team without Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, and Malcolm Brogdon didn't even play in the second half. So it's basically just a bunch of young guys out there, Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons and so on and so on. But tonight will help me understand a lot about this team. If we win or if we lose, some questions need to be answered. Like, can we build that level of consistency on both ends? And can Steve Kerr put together the right lineups to help us be successful? So it's a lot at stake here tonight. Maybe we reevaluate the roster as quick as possible and make a move, but we shall see. But nonetheless, it should be a good matchup against the Thunder. We always play pretty good against them. I know Isaiah Joe don't miss for crying out loud, but yeah, it should be a good matchup for sure.
It should be a good matchup, and I think it's a good point. You got them on the road though in OKC, so it will be a tough matchup.
The last
But
time
to
we
your
went there
point, the
was not nice.
Warriors got to put together some consistency here if they really want to, get talked about amongst the rest of the contenders in the Western Conference. It's crazy y'all have already played the Thunder 3 times this season, so this is y'all's your last matchup of the season with the Thunder. Mind you, Thunder have won 2. Warriors won the first matchup of the year back in November. So this will kind of decide whether or not the Thunder win the season series or the Warriors end up splitting 2 with the Thunder. But yeah, I think the big thing here is the Warriors just need to build some consistency, right? Put a few wins together in a row. And really just find, like you said about the Bucks earlier, find an identity, figure out roles for everybody, right? You got a bunch of different pieces. You got Pods, you got Moses Moody, you got Kuminga. So you got young talent that you're trying to implement there with veterans who already know their roles. You got Klay Thompson who just can't seem to put much of anything together. But then you have Draymond who's playing some of his best basketball. So there's room to put it together there. They just haven't done it yet, man.
All right.
So
who you got? What game you keeping an eye on tonight?
Yeah. So I'm going to be watching the Sixers game, of course, against the Hawks. Right. But I look at that game as a game where no Trae Young in that game for Atlanta. This is a game where the Sixers are fully healthy at home. You got all of your players available. I look for the Sixers to take care of business tonight against them. So I'm not going to put the focus on that game. I'm going to put the focus on these LA Clippers, man. They're visiting the Utah Jazz, and it doesn't sound like this huge matchup this evening. It doesn't sound like it weighs too much on the season. But the Jazz are a pretty good team at home. They generally cover the spread at home. The LA Clippers are 7.5-point favorites on the road against the Jazz. The big thing here, though, right? Since Harden went in the starting lineup, Westbrook goes to the bench. The Clippers have been looking a lot better. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games played. So for me, I'm looking for them. Same thing as the Warriors. Try to build some consistency here. Put a few wins in a row together. This is a Utah Jazz team that should have no business beating a Clippers team with the amount of talent that they have. So even with it on the road, can the Clippers keep that momentum going? Can James Harden keep contributing to winning basketball in that starting lineup? And can the Clippers just take care of business, man? I do think that the Utah Jazz end up covering this game and making it a little bit closer than the Clippers would like. But I do think the Clippers win ultimately. But definitely something I'm keeping my eye on. I'm going to be watching the Clippers all season just because I've become a James Harden hater. So I'm going to be rooting against them all season. With that said, I'm going to be watching for that game and that score tonight because if they lose to the Jazz, I don't care if it's on the road. I will be clowning James Harden the next time I get a chance. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with narratives tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this though, y'all getting PJ Tucker contract off was huge than most people will ever think. Like
that's probably the biggest part of the trade.
It sucks for PJ, man. I'm seeing he got 7 DNPs in a row, so it's just tough for him, man.
That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't know that it was 7 DNPs in a row, but hey, if it's not working, he's a liability offensively. That's the problem, man. And like the defense,
Daniel Tyson's been huge for the Clippers,
yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah. Just looking here to see if there's any other big matchups tonight. You got the Kings and the Suns, but no KD tonight. Rockets and Nuggets. That's interesting. The Rockets visiting the Nuggets. Nuggets really need a W. Got the Knicks and the Celtics. That's definitely one to pay attention for the Eastern Conference. Aside from that, well, Cavs and Heat. Cavaliers visiting the Heat in Miami. So there's a few games to watch out for tonight. Those are the ones that we decided to highlight. But definitely pick your poison. There's a big slate, and then we get the in-season championship tomorrow. What were you going to say?
Yeah. Say that. Isn't the Pistons like on a 19-game losing streak?
Are they? Let me see here. Oh, I clicked on the Raptors. Damn. So hold up. Let me just check this. 19-game losing streak. 18-game losing streak. This would be number 19 tonight if they lose to the Magic, which the Magic need a W as well. They're coming off 2 losses, so I imagine the Magic at home are probably going to take care of business against the Pistons. So probably will end up being 19 losses in a row, man. That is crazy. That's a good call out, though. I wasn't even thinking about that. Wow. All right, man. You got anything else before we get out of here, my man?
That's pretty much it, man.
Yeah, we'll be back next Friday around the same time. Whether or not we record it, go live, whatever the case may be, we will be back next Friday, regular time, around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Time for Slim. But nonetheless, thank you guys for checking out this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like on the video to push it out and help us out, help us build the community here. And, of course, head over to the Galaxy pod featuring my co-host here, Slim. Give that a subscription, like all the videos, and he will be bringing the content to you as soon as he can. But nonetheless, give us a follow on Twitter and X at Scotty Drown for myself, at RTR30111 for Slim. For myself, for Slim, that is going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Peace, everybody. Enjoy the slate tonight.